but I've spoken with Leader Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans, many of them, and we were going to do this anyway, but I've informed them, all of the House members, that I fully support transparency on the so-called whistleblower information. Additionally, I demand transparency from Democrats who went to Ukraine and attempted to force the new president, who I met and is an outstanding person, who just met a little while ago. Some of you were there. I think he's going to be outstanding. He got elected on the basis of corruption. He wants to end corruption in Ukraine, and I think that's great. But they went there and they wanted to force the new president to do things that they wanted under the form of political threat.
Now, that was a soundbite from a press conference that was just wrapped up. Now, this was the second time that President Trump had a chance to address the press today. And Archie's Rachel Blevins has been following the story all day and brings us her report.
President Trump spoke out earlier today about the transcript that was released from that infamous call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. And Trump specifically accused the Democrats of launching a political war in order to get Ukraine on their side.
And if you take a look at the Democrats, they went down to see the president of Ukraine, and they asked him for all sorts of things, and don't go with the Republicans and stay with us, and like it's a political war. They shouldn't have done that. That should be an impeachable event, I guess, based on what you're saying.
Now, as promised, the White House did release a transcript of that phone call earlier today, and it does specifically mention former Vice President Joe Biden and his son. If we take a look at the text of that transcript, it says, quote, "There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that, so whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution, so if you can look into it." Now, this is not the first time that Trump has accused the Bidens of being complicit in corruption with their business dealings in Ukraine. But of course, if we look at that original complaint that was submitted by an anonymous whistleblower, it specifically said that Trump put $400 million worth of military aid to Ukraine on hold ahead of this phone call in order to use it as leverage in order to push for an investigation into the Bidens. Now, while we do see the Bidens and their business dealings mentioned in the transcript, we don't see any proof that President Trump specifically threatened Zelensky with that military aid in order to push for an investigation. Now, meanwhile, when Zelensky was asked about whether or not he was pressured into making a deal with President Trump, he told reporters that he has not been pressured into anything and that he can't be pressured because he is the president of an independent state. And he then followed that up by saying that the only person who can pressure him into doing something is his son, who is just 6 years old. Now, we have seen Democrats for months looking for ways to impeach President Trump. And when she made this announcement about the proceedings, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi specifically said that the final straw in all of this that made her go after President Trump was the claim that he had moved to silence a whistleblower who was trying to put out information to the public that he did not want to be made public. Now, this is incredibly notable because even though we have an election right around the corner, we also have to look at the fact that it was Democrats like Nancy Pelosi who themselves stayed silent when former President Obama was in office, and he was the one who was targeting whistleblowers. In fact, if you look back at records, the Obama administration prosecuted more whistleblowers than all previous presidents combined. Now, if we look specifically at these impeachment proceedings, it's also important to note here that even if President Trump is impeached, it does not mean that he is removed from office. However, if this specific impeachment inquiry is successful, then it will likely mean that it is just the start of a very long and lengthy legal process that will go far beyond the 2020 election. Scotty, back to you.